Azure Queue Storage is a service for storing large numbers of messages that can be accessed from anywhere in the world via HTTP or HTTPS. In this demo, I will show you the common queue storage operation that you can perform with PowerShell. To follow this demo, you need to have a storage account deployed and use the latest Azure PowerShell AZ module. You can also create a new storage account. You need to install the AZ module on your machine or use the Azure Cloud Shell instead. For this demo, I will use North Europe as a location, so I will store it in a variable called location for future use. My storage account is deployed in a resource group. I will also store it in the variable called resource group name and store my storage account name in the variable called storage ACC. When acting on a storage account, you reference the context instead of repeatedly providing the credentials. So to get the storage account context that defines the storage account to be used, I will use the get AZ storage account commandlet and store the context in the variable called ctx. Next, I will create a queue named LinkedIn queue. Then I will run the new AZ storage queue to create the queue and store it in the variable called queue. If I switch to the Azure portal, select my storage account and click on queues, I can see now that my queue is created. Now you can run query and retrieve a specific queue or a list of all the queues in the storage account. For this example, I will retrieve all queues in the storage account as well as a specific queue, and both commands use the get AZ storage queue commandlet. To retrieve a specific queue, you run the get AZ storage queue followed by the variable name and the context. To show the properties of the queue, you type the variable name queue. To retrieve all queues and show their names, to add a message to a queue, you need to create a new instance of the message object class. Next, call the add message method. A cloud queue message can be created from either a string in UTF-8 format or a byte array. I will add 3 messages to the queue by running the following commands. If I switch to the Azure portal and refresh my queue in the storage account, I can see that I have 3 messages. You can also read a single message from the queue and then delete it. First, I need to set the invisibility timeout, which defines how long the message remains invisible before it's available again for processing. The default is 30 seconds. I will set to 10 seconds by running this command. Next, I will read the queue by calling the Microsoft Azure Storage Queue Cloud Queue Get Message method. You get the next message in the queue. A message returned from the get message becomes invisible to any other code reading messages from this queue. To finish removing the message from the queue, you call the Microsoft Azure Storage Queue Cloud Queue Delete Message method. If I switch back to the Azure portal and refresh my queue in the storage account, I can see now that I have only 2 messages instead of 3. Finally, to delete a queue and all the messages contained in it, we need to use the remove AZ storage queue commandlet. I will delete my queue and confirm yes. Switching back to the Azure portal, and I can see that my queue is deleted from my storage account. Managing queues for Azure Storage can take some time to become familiar with. You can find more information in the documentation on how to use the .NET Storage Client library to perform data plane operations.